Tell me when you've got everybody in, Dan.
Everybody that was in the waiting room is in. I'll just let new people in, like Harry and the others, as they join.
Okay.
Giving Harry another minute, Steve?
Yeah, let's give him a minute. Okay, why don't we start? Would everybody, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Would everybody join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic,
One nation,
and
under God,
one nation,
indivisible,
under God,
liberty and
God,
justice.
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. Hopefully Harry will join us shortly. Our first item tonight is a presentation by the Center School Ad Hoc Committee. Bob Zinser was chairman. Bob, would you like to give us an overview of your committee's work?
I certainly would. Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
I am going to read, so if I'm not looking directly at you, you will, that's the reason for that. With the anticipated construction and opening of a new pre-K through 5th grade school, the Brookfield Board of Selectmen appointed an ad hoc committee to consider the reuse of Center School, as it will no longer be needed as instructional space. The charge to the committee was to explore the highest and best use of the Center School facility. Through criteria setting, community research, and review of documents related to the facility, the committee operated from August 5th, 2019 to July 28th of 2020 to pursue this goal. The committee defined the criteria for highest and best use of the facility, determined and used data collection methods to gather input on community needs, established criteria for assessing community needs, weighed community needs against the established criteria, gained essential information on the facility, evaluated the internal and external structural layout, and explored options for the use of the facility. Concluded on the highest and best use of the facility after considering all available data. And our recommendations, after thoughtful and thorough consideration, the committee recommends to the selectmen that we make use of the majority of the former Center School to house a Brookfield library. Also house the Parks and Recs department within the remaining space of the former Center School. Provide for periodic use of the facility by Brookfield town departments and commissions, community organizations, and local residents. Relocate the Board of Education offices and administrative staff currently housed at Town Hall to the vacated library building. Engage design professionals to develop a plan and estimate supporting the conversion of the Center School to a library and Parks and Recreation facility, as well as a plan and estimate to tear down and construction of a new building for similar use. Utilizing public funds to renovate a building that is approximately 83 years old and substantially built with combustible materials needs to be rigorously examined for the longer term. While the Center School may have good bones, would a complete tear down, building from the ground up, give the town an all new structure to house a library and adequate space for Parks and Recs and other periodic use make better sense. Alternately, could the teardown site be the location of another town facility? So in summary, the Brookfield Library and the Parks and Recreation Department joint use of the Center School facilities would allow each entity to better realize their programming capabilities and greatly enhance the perception of Brookfield as a desirable place to live, raise a family, and retire. Community organizations would also have the opportunity to continue and expand their programming. Thus, the return to the taxpayer would be significant. We are confident that the processes and analysis used to render this work are the best available and are hopeful that they will provide the Brookfield Selectmen with the information they need to proceed with a sound decision on the reuse of Center School. And I just would like to say that this committee worked not only very hard to put together their final report, but everybody worked very well together. Nobody came in with any preset ideas. Everybody was open to suggestions and listened to the many groups that came before us and spoke of their needs. And the common core of that, of course, was space. So it was a delight to be part of this committee, and we all thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this committee and hopefully contribute to the future of our town.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I saw all the supporting documentation and everything you did. I want to thank you, Bob, and the entire committee. I think this is the most complete, in-depth overview with the breadth of people that you talk to in organizations. It's really quite stunning, that all the work you did. And it's a very, very, very good report, in my opinion. I just want to ask a couple questions. Sue, do you have any initial comments?
As I was reading it, as you say, it was, several inches thick. Thank the committee. I want to thank the library and also thank Park and Rec for the amount of work that they put into their presentations as well. But all your hours that you put into it, all your hard work. The time that you devoted to make Brookfield a better town is just awe-inspiring, and I thank you. It does show that we're a very busy town. I was very happy to see that you had reached out and talked to the Brookfield High School grad party, because I know that's a space that it seems like every year they're always scrounging for something. So to think that we could have it in our own, area was pretty exciting. So I would love to see, lots of different things happen with that building, and thank you very much. Steve, I don't think we have any money in this budget, but I would love to see it go into next year's budget to get.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we need to, now that the committee has done such a good job, we need to act on it and begin to come up with some kind of design. And that you have to hire someone to come in. Tectons did an amazing amount of work on rebuilding the school, but that's not what the library or Parks and Recs needs. I think that would be a good starting point for a designer. They wouldn't have to go back in, look at all the building structure, look at all the infrastructure, the heating, air conditioning. Tecton's already done all of that. So I think we could get.
I'd love to see it in two ways also when we do go to design. One is using the existing footprint, and the other is a tear down and just making it a new building.
Yeah, because it might be less expensive to build new. It might be. When we do the school grants, if we had decided to renovate Huckleberry, they would have given us 31% rather than 21%, because it is expensive to renovate. And what I'm concerned about with Center School, as Bob had mentioned, is it is largely a wood structure building, and they are not easy to renovate, given the new codes and zoning. And so I think that's a good idea. We have to, I've said this before, my opinion is I really want to get the new school locked down completely, what the cost will be, what our financing will be, what those expenses will be. As you know, we were very lucky. We originally estimated our costs for these first tranche of the school loan that the town would pay between 4% and 6%, which is what we've historically been paying over the last 10 years. And we got that at 1.55%. That we were going to do a 30-year loan, and we went to a 20-year loan. So that is going to save us, Marcia's done the analysis, over $21 million just in the first tranche. So we'll probably go to the markets next summer, because we'll have spent a lot of the money we've raised already. But I'd like to see what our construction cost is, what the bids come in on the new school, so we can readjust our 10-year plan and then start to incorporate this. The police need work, police radios, things like that. But this is an incredibly good start point. Bob, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Were there any any needs that you discovered that no one had an idea about, that there were groups in town that might need help or space or things like that? I know you hit almost every single group in town. Did you find anything unusual, I guess?
We sent out approximately 140 surveys
Uh-huh.
to every organization. We have the master list, but I mean, every organization, churches, everybody we could think of, even private organizations.
Right.
And the one common denominator, and the other members of the committee are on it, and they're welcome to chime in as well. But the common denominator was space. Everybody needed space of some kind or another. And we really, I can't say we found anything so unusual that it made us all sit up and say, wow, you know, we really need to accommodate that. But the need for space was just overwhelming. Sports teams meeting with their parents on the side of the field, you know, before a game or after a game. Stuff being stored in storage containers on the side of the field, and, you know, rodents getting into it and weather affecting it. Stuff being stored in people's cellars and attics off seasons. And as Sue mentioned, and I'm familiar with the grad party from years ago, trying to find space for the grad party and work as best you can. So the overriding theme was space. And I think the one thing that stuck out in my mind was when Mary Knox came and gave her presentation for Parks and Rec and showed us all the programs they support and that they provide without having a space of their own. That's stuck with me most of anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. To think we could have a community center of some sort is very exciting.
We looked at, obviously that was one of our considerations, but with the size of the building being approximately 54,000 square feet, if we split it up roughly in our minds, or at least in our consensus, of 40,000 square feet being used for the library and 14,000 square feet being used for Parks and Rec. And Mary Knox was ecstatic. She was just ecstatic.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she volunteered. You know, she said, "We'll move our offices in there. We'll take on the scheduling for outside groups." She was just, it was like somebody gave her the, you know, key to Fort Knox.
Right.
Yeah, we've had that, gosh, over the last 5 years. That's a consistent cry. Either meeting space, storage space, the ability to have an indoors place where you can meet. And Bob, you know this from in Odyssey of the Mind,
Yeah.
right? Really hard to find places that are dedicated that you can keep. And in Odyssey of the Mind, it's mostly parents' basements or garages. I know for 6 years, my garage was Odyssey of the Mind
Yeah.
9 months out of the year, and no cars were in there. So I really think that we should move forward this. We're going to redo the 10-year capital plan. We'll have a much better idea during the budget season where we are. But I would love to get some numbers around this and a potential design of a library building, whether it's rebuilding the existing or new. Get those numbers so we can start to fit these things in the overall budget plan over the next 5 to 6 years. I think that's the way we should do it. And I think you're right. I just want to say again, your committee did a phenomenal job. I mean, no one can look at this and not say that there's a need for space, that we have to manage this and we have to address it at some point.
Every member of the committee stepped up in one form or another. Everybody had their expertise. I mean, hats off to Frank Farrell and Loretta Donovan for putting the final report together in a format that the rest of us were just wondering how we were going to do it. Loretta said, "I'll do it." And I mean, she did just a fantastic job putting the document together. But again, space was the predominant theme. I mean, you've got different groups paying for space, nonprofit organizations paying for space because there just is nowheres, if they can get it at all, because of the increase in liabilities and things like that. So that was the overriding thing.
I know.
There was a figure in here, but was that the figure of rebuilding, bringing Center School up to snuff, the 19 million? Is that the figure that was in there?
I think that might have been the figure
Yeah.
from
Tecton?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was 19
Keep in mind,
million to refurb the school and bring it to current code and make it what we
Okay.
need.
Keep in mind, we did not have the expertise, nor did we even try to tackle a true cost estimate. That we didn't feel that was our charge,
Right,
and we obviously did not have that type of expertise.
yeah.
You
Uh,
had
Greg-
expertise in other areas. Thank you.
And we want to thank all of you for all the work you've done. Greg Dembowski, you had a comment?
Yes, I can. If you can just give me a second, Steve, please.
Sure.
Actually have two comments. The first is that as this plan, if it ever does trickle through, it'll help a lot of the offices in town hall who are literally sitting on top of each other in some cases. We actually have our purchasing manager whose office is in a closet, literally a closet. So there really is a need for more space, even beyond what I heard on this call. I'd also like to make another point. On this call with me this evening is Deacon Lou Howe from St. Joe's Church, and I'll just make a couple quick comments about space. I think you all know that St. Joseph's School has recently announced that they've closed. And because of that, they are now offering, or will soon be offering, for long-term rental the entire lower level of the school. I believe that's 9,500 square feet of space. That's classrooms and other amenities. So if any organization now in transition or until this plan comes to be needs space right across the street from Center School, there's classrooms, there's all kinds of available space there right now. It's ideal for before or after school programming, maybe some general classroom kind of programs, daycare, those kind of things. And if anybody's interested, they just need to call the parish center, either Father Chip O'Neill or Deacon Lou Howe, and that number is 775-1035. That just might help in the transition until we get this space available to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Greg, can I ask you a question? Would they be willing to rent a classroom to an organization? Or do they want to rent the entire space?
Deacon Lou's here. I'll let him speak. If he goes off mute, maybe he can answer that question.
That'd be great.
Deacon, can you hear us?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
There you go.
What we're really looking to do is possibly utilize the entire top floor. So one individual classroom for a small amount of time may be more of a scheduling problem that we might be, but we're willing to entertain any needs or anything that we might be able to do short time or long term. But we're looking more of a long-term rental that we can a year to. I don't know how long the transition is for your center school
Well,
project.
no, I guess, Deacon, my question was, let's say the Brookfield Baseball Association needs a space and they would want to rent one of your lower level classrooms year round for storage and for meetings. Would you be interested in that, or do you want to rent the entire space to one organization?
No, I think we could entertain that. We're not 100% sure what the utilization of the building is going to be, but we would entertain at least looking at it anyway.
Having the conversation. Okay. So we'll get that out to people and have them give you a call.
Great.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Sue, do you have any other concerns or points?
No, just a thank you, and let's, work to get this in the budget so we can get an outline next
Yeah,
year.
I'd like to get something in design. John Lucas, any questions, concerns?
Nope, you guys covered it all. I just want to also thank the committee for doing an amazing job. There's a lot of interesting ideas in there, and it's definitely something to think about as you go into your next budget. So
Yeah,
appreciate
we've got, I think, a great foundation here to go to the boards in the town with the request for design criteria and to spend some money on design and start doing at least the design now moving forward. Okay, great. Bob, entire committee, thank you very, very much. And I know you all want to stay on this meeting right to the very end, right?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the Art Commission. At a Board of Selectmen meeting on the 8th, Loretta Ball had given us a presentation and the board had asked, and we've gone out to the public, asking to get more input on the design. And we just asked, we wanted the people to get their reactions, whether they liked it, whether they thought it was appropriate. We've gotten some very, very thoughtful comments, both positive and negative. And I wanted to share with you, till today, there were 16 people that felt that this sculpture was not appropriate for the downtown, and 12 were in love with it. And that's,
That's
all
it?
28 people. I don't know what the rest of the town would say, but there does seem to be some mixed response, which you always see with artwork. Some parts make people really happy, and
Yeah.
some go, I don't like it. I'm wondering if we shouldn't ask the Arts Commission to go back and possibly come with 2 or 3 possible designs that townspeople could look at rather than just one. What do you think, Sue?
Oh, what does the art commission think?
Yeah,
Well, I've gotten nothing but positive response, and we've given I'm really surprised that you didn't get more responses. I'm sorry about that.
that's what I feel.
But I mean, since April, we've been on Park and Rec's been giving us a push, and the town has been giving us a push, and we were all on all these different Facebook things that have like thousands of followers on their different pages, and News Times, and even the News Times was a very positive article. And at that time, it alluded that the comments we were receiving were leaning towards the positive.
Mhm.
But
This is not scientific, Loretta. It was just, we wanted to get more feedback. And very often the people who spend the most time looking at town websites and the Board of Selectmen meetings and stuff are very, very particular.
well,
So-
we had feedback in the beginning when we went out and we asked people, said, well, what do you think it should be? And I mean, I have my notes. People felt as if it should
Yeah.
be welcoming, it should be warm, it should be reflect some of our history, and with the ironworks and the farming, and we feel we did that with this because it is made of it's a metal sculpture, and it also depicts a plant in its early stages. So I mean, it we had other people say we should do something about an airport, but I researched that. I couldn't really find anything about an airport in Brookfield.
There was one.
I hear there was one too, but I
There's
couldn't.
one single strip. I'm not sure many people know about it though.
Windmills, like Happy Landings, but we already have a windmill Happy Landing, and a windmill didn't seem it would be too big of a structure. It might be interfere with power lines and things like that. So we concentrated on the ones that our feedback gave us, which was the farming, the ironworks, and welcoming, and abstract too. There was a lot of requests. I think there was 3 strong abstracts. We had 3 farmings. We had 3 ironworks, and I think we got more responses than the town did.
It's
You
interesting.
very well might have. I'll have Ginny I'll forward you all the comments that we got, because some of them were
Right.
very thoughtful, both ways, right? I think
Okay.
one of the things is, I think with abstract art, if people don't like abstract art, they just don't like abstract art. It's nothing.
Well,
you
I
can
mean,
do.
it's, we didn't want to put up a statue of Columbus. We probably could have found one of them someplace. And
There's extras, yeah.
create further issue.
Probably could have gotten it cheap too.
We probably could have gotten it for free.
Might be missing a head though.
Even
I think
getting
there
involved
was-
with the sculptures that had people were more cast iron, and the price of the art at that point went very high.
Yeah.
And
And
then
I think, Loretta,
what type of person do you depict in the sculpture? It's difficult.
Oh, I don't think, the only person you could do is Thomas Brooks, I think, without controversy. And going there, you're right, that would be over $100,000 to have something commissioned, I'm sure, and I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
But-
Well, we priced it out that it'd probably be like 25,000 just for a model, a mock-up of something,
Yeah.
and then And then making it would definitely be over the $100,000 mark.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Loretta and Catherine, so Steve will forward you, but maybe if I can just sum up what I read, people along the ironworks theme, but if it was more of not a shiny iron, that they
Well,
didn't
the
think
artists,
that fit in with the New England
the
look.
artist had other pieces that were oxidized iron, which had like a rusty look.
Mhm.
But when you put it in a green tree area, it disappears.
Mhm.
And it loses its presence.
Mhm.
Even in his display in his yard, it kind of disappeared like a black
Yeah.
bear, just
Yeah.
like it's the
I
absence
can
of
see
anything.
that. Yeah. Mhm.
Because
And the other
originally I was looking, I thought something like that might be appropriate, but then when I
Mhm.
saw it live and in person, I was like, this isn't
Yeah.
going to work.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. And then I think a few people had just said that they wanted more of a New England feel, but well, you'll see the comments.
Okay. We're all from New England.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Mm, yeah, New Fairfield. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we wanted a local. We tried to choose someone who was local also. We didn't want
which is
to go
nice.
cross country for it.
All right. Well, we'll discuss more. And we'll look
Okay.
at your comments.
Okay, we'll send them, and then I'm not negative on this. I'm just not sure this is really what Brookfield wants as a whole.
Well, what
And
is
I-
the town's thoughts on? I mean, choosing a sculpture and the possibility of fundraising and stuff for it was also part of our judgment. I mean, we all have full-time jobs. I'm not, a fundraising expert. I've never fundraised. Does the town have a better feel for if they would be willing to contribute something and in budgetary wise for a project?
yeah, I think that's,
I don't have the energy or the time to raise $150,000.
well, I think my personal opinion is I think the town should absolutely contribute, right? I'd love to see fundraising, but to get the right thing, I think something that everyone would really like, I think the town should be willing to, it's just investing in our community.
Yeah.
In
Could
my,
could I hear the objection to an American flag? A few people suggested that, and we heard that was not good.
well, it's putting up an American flag is problematic for a couple of reasons. One, you have to light it 24 hours a day. You have to light it at night. You're supposed
Which we
to take
could.
it. You're supposed to take it down in bad weather. So if
Okay.
it starts to rain on a Friday night, who's going to go take the flag down?
Okay. Got it.
It's a practical thing. I don't have a problem with the American flag. I just think it's a practical consideration.
No, I don't realize that Newtown takes their flag down in bad weather.
Technically, you're supposed to.
Okay.
I used to be a Boy Scout.
All right. I was
Right.
wondering what the objection. Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I'd say right now, let's continue this, Sue, and continue to have conversations on this. I don't think I'm ready to make a decision on whether to buy a piece of artwork yet.
Keep in
you
mind that this is going to set us back
Yeah.
time-wise. So we might have a brick little round thing there empty for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. But thank you. I know you guys, you did a phenomenal amount of work. And no one sees it, but we know you did a ton of work on this. And we
More to
really
come, I guess.
appreciate it. Okay. Thank you
All right.
very much.
Did any of the people interested want to volunteer to help?
Yeah,
Yeah.
They just have a lot of negative comments.
that's right.
Especially with
The people who object, how about you help us find something?
Yeah.
That's a really good.
All righty.
idea. Okay,
Right. I
thanks,
think
guys.
if we can, get fundraising and, I'll do what I
Yeah.
can.
Yes,
And,
but we cannot fundraise
the
until
town.
we have a project that's been approved. So that's
Right.
our little.
No, I don't think
Catch
that's
22
true.
thing.
I think you could fundraise in advance. as long as you committed to the fact that this would go towards artwork that is going to be put in the town center, you could do fundraising. I don't
Yes,
think it'd
except
be as
people will
easy.
want to, excuse me?
I don't think it would be as easy.
Yeah,
as if
people
you
will
had
want
it.
to see what we're fundraising for.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you.
See you later.
Thanks. We have no correspondence addressed that I see, right? Okay, so our next item on the agenda.
Steve?
Yeah.
Steve, did you want to go to the coronavirus update and then coffee with the community?
Oh, yeah, we could do that, yep. I just missed it, that these things are different. Okay, for the coronavirus update, as many people in town know, the state now has 3 levels of coronavirus, yellow, orange, and red. We last Thursday were moved into the orange category, and it's based on the number of cases you have per 100,000 residents. So there's a formula that they go through. Over the last 6 weeks, we have had a significant jump in the number of coronavirus cases reported in Brookfield. And as of last Wednesday, when I got my last report from our Director of Public Health, we had a total of 260 cases. We still remain at 9 deaths. One 92-year-old is hospitalized currently. And at that point in time, our 14-day moving average was continuing to climb up to 8.4 from 7.14. This was probably a large part of the reason that we sometimes, and the schools sometimes, get reporting before it gets out to the town and to residents. And with this growth in cases, that's why the schools decided to change the, close the schools. We're testing a lot more people, school employees, but some of them live out of town. So somebody could possibly contract the virus here in Brookfield in one of our schools. And we did have cases in all 4 schools, though today the state reported 2 schools. So the state reporting is not as accurate as our Director of Public Health. So we could have cases in the schools, and if the teacher or faculty member lives in a different town, they're going to get recorded in that town, not in Brookfield. So the reporting isn't perfect. But Doc says the Department of Public Health is working on new rules for sports, as there's been a large uptick in numbers amongst hockey and soccer players. Also, they're working on new rules for the bars, who are pretending to be restaurants and staying open late into the night, as Doc says, serving free French fries and hot dogs, and calling it a meal. The governor is considering a curfew for them, which Doc believes is an important thing to do. The state positivity rate is up over 4%, but the governor is still allowing New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts out of travel ban despite those numbers. Connecticut is now, we're in the orange. We moved down a little bit today. We really need to watch this very, very carefully. Sue and I discussed briefly, and we're probably going to talk offline about this, about reopening the Parks and Rec programs and reopening the Still River Greenway. I would like to get Doc Sullivan's input on that before we make any decisions. He is very close to this. He has Maureen Farrell and her team working on the contract tracing. So that's the update on coronavirus. We will also, how do I keep on missing this? We're going to have coffee with the community.
Steve, can I
yes.
just say something before you go on
Sure.
to that?
Sure.
There was a little bit of confusion when the code red went out a week or so ago.
Yeah.
It sounded as if, and you mentioned tonight that we have 260 cases. I'd like to say that we've had those many cases over the length of COVID.
Yeah, since we started reporting.
Not now. Okay, there
No,
was
not now.
confusion. People were thinking that we had 259, I think it was at the time, at this point. But that was not true. And if you read the code red, it did say, since March. So
Right,
I just
right.
want people to be not confused about that.
Yeah, and we don't want to scare people.
Yeah. And then the other
Unnecessarily.
thing, mentioning the code red, we have about it going out to about 1,800 people right now.
Yeah.
We'd love to see an uptick in that. So Code Red just gives you information of what's happening with COVID. And as you mentioned another time, You're going to be talking about the flu when, maybe we start going into that season as well. So they can sign up on the town website. Very
Correct.
easy to do. And they'll get notices as to what's happening.
Yep. It's on the bottom of the front main page. It says Code Red. You just click on it. I have gotten some concerns from people, which I guess is a good thing, that they want Code Reds on a daily basis. I think that's overkill. I think we would get, people get tired of seeing them and then won't pay attention to them. So our commitment, and Sue and you and I have talked about this, is to send them out when there's significant information that we need to give to our residents. And I would imagine, if we have any huge changes, then we would send one out, and then maybe once in a month, send an update out as to the status quo. I just don't want to give people fatigue with these messages. Do you agree?
I agree, but I also think that it's such on our minds right now as we're getting deeper into the winter and more concerned with the numbers going up. So maybe even telling them that our numbers are good is not a bad thing.
Yeah, we could do that too. Okay, we'll watch it and continue to do that. So community, we're going to have, instead of having the coffee with the community, which we hope to start up again, we'll have a virtual meeting on November 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Residents are welcome to join the meeting by YouTube for viewing or join via Zoom for call-in. The details will be on the town website. Again, we had no correspondence, and that moves us to our monthly financial update. Marcia, you still with us?
Yes, I am. And Harry has joined us.
Oh, Harry.
Yes, I
Harry.
apologize, guys. I was out of town on an emergency call, just got in, so.
So in your packet, you've got our revenue budget, revenue to actual, and we're still in a good place for the revenue that right now so that's good. That we've got our expenditure summary, that things are on track. There's no surprises for the expenditures, that except for, it's not a surprise, the COVID is changing every month as we go through. As we talked about, that we want to do an iterative budget process, because when we made the budget, we didn't know what the COVID costs would be, if there would still be COVID and so forth. So if we just take a look at that quickly, let me share my screen. Steve had asked for just a summary of what these costs are, and originally, or summary of where we stand on this. Originally, we had asked for a $500,000 contingency, because when the budget was done in April, we just didn't know what was happening. Every month we have asked for transfers that to cover the costs as we've gone through. October, for example, most of the transfers were to deal with this election. That November, about half of this is our transfers for a new grant that we received from the Department of Health for contact tracing. And then the rest of it is to finish out November and December. With most of our expenditures before we thought would end at October 31st, and obviously that's not ending. So with those approved, you've approved October, the Board of Finance has not. We're asking for November tonight to be approved. With all of those approved, the total amount that's coming out of the contingency is $122,595. That leaves $377,000 in the contingency. That seems like a lot of money, but we have to remember that contingency also covers the Board of Ed. So far, they've been able to cover their costs from their savings. Originally, we thought that we were be paying for the Chromebooks and the computers, but they have covered it with their costs. So we're going to add that back into the contingency. So after all the approvals, that we would still have 377,000 in our contingency. With respect to revenue, that's the expenditure side. With respect to the revenue, that we had in the budget 198,000 for miscellaneous COVID revenues that everyone was talking about. Oh, they'll give us revenue for this, for that. Well, they really haven't come through so well. We have had two small amounts for the elections. They did tell us in total they'll give us 11,500 or so in cash and in-kind services. So we can't quantify the in-kind services. We can't tell you if they've given them to us or not, but what we've received in cash is for the elections is $5,200. This is that grant we were talking about, the health department grant. And then we had one that we had a little bit left over that we didn't spend from last year that we spent this year. So of our $198,000 budget, we've received 32,000. So our revenue is short by 165,000 so far. There are possible additional monies to come in that, again, I say possible just because we've just been seeing the rules change as we go along. But FEMA, that we had calculated that we have about 13,000 of expenses. And FEMA is really pushing to say, you know what, right now, we're only going to pay for PPE for the EMS and emergency services when they think it's a COVID case or a confirmed or suspected COVID case. So they're expecting us to take and prorate our PPE supply based on, we used 5 masks for this, so we can ask for reimbursement for $25. But as I read the instructions, that that started on September 15th. So we were thinking 13,000 we might get reimbursed for. We did, the application was due on Friday. I had the instructions out and I had the expenditures out, and we pulled as much as we could for FEMA reimbursement based on what they said up until September 15th that they would reimburse. And we asked for 57,000 of reimbursement. Again, everything that might have been reimbursed, we threw in there because certainly they're not going to come back and say, oh, we could give you more. So we wanted to estimate on the high side. Hopefully we get something out of that. We don't know when. That we did, let's see, we did ask for FEMA last quarter in June 30th, but because we didn't know if we would get anything from them, we didn't pick it up as an accounts receivable last year. So we might get a little bit from them for last year's PPE and things. The coronavirus relief fund that was also due on Friday, that we ended up asking for $217,000 from them, that I hoping, and from what I can read, that we should get a substantial amount from there. But again, they're changing the rules every day. They're changing the instructions every day. They're threatening that if you don't fill this form out right, and we're going to disallow your whole application. They're kind of a little bit like bullies. But we'll see on that. And then we should get $900 for register shields that we bought. So there's a potential that we get up to $215,000 more through right now. Again, FEMA after this, I don't expect we'll get much because it's just so restricted. The coronavirus relief funds, they have more money, but they haven't decided who they're going to give it to, how they're going to give it to them. They're waiting for these applications that all went in on Friday. They're waiting for these before they decide. So if we got 100% of that, don't hold your breath, that we would get 49,000 over budget. The school has some revenue amounts, but they're netting those with their expenses. That's why we're not showing them above and we're not showing them here. So if we get none of this, we may still be under budget. We may have be under our expenditure budget and under this and still have 200,000 to the good, but we just don't know what's happening.
Yeah, and if I can just make one comment here, FEMA and the CRF funds, this has been so soft and so ever changing, what they'll cover, what they won't cover, whether they're on an accrual basis or a cash basis, they're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I don't have a high comfort level that I think we'll receive something, but I'd like everyone to understand that these numbers are, in my opinion, very, very soft as to what we'll get. But even if we get none of this, we're still under budget on the COVID.
And just as an example, the coronavirus relief funds were due on Friday. They'll only give the finance director a password that they say is to assure accuracy. So you've got finance directors that are manually inputting these things because each one has to be manually inputted. Just for us, we had 250 invoices. It took over 3 days to put them in. And then after we put them in on Wednesday, they came out and they said, oh, they want to change the way that you record these. Well, now we've got to go back, and record 50, change 50 invoices that we had put in. So it's a mess.
Yeah, it is. It's a mess. So we're following it very, very carefully, but I don't have a real strong comfort level on this. So at this point in time, any questions, Harry, Sue, for Marcia?
I don't think so, Steve. I think it's, that money may not be coming forward, but at least it's a good scenario.
Yeah. I think we're in good shape here that our revenues are right where we want them to be. In fact, they're better than we thought they were going to be. So we're in a good shape there, but we need to make a motion. Sue, any comment?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, so we need to make a motion. Marcia, can you go back to the previous page? Because we have to make a motion for the November 20th numbers.
Yep.
Right.
You want to make a motion to move 48,823.61 from the COVID budget to the lines as shown on the detail report.
Right.
And you also want to move 25,871 back to the COVID contingency for money that currently is going to be paid by the school.
No, 125,878.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. So I make a motion that we move out of the COVID contingency budget $48,823.61 to the line items that are listed in the report. And I would make the and also to move $125,878.97 back into the COVID contingency budget as it's not needed by the schools at this time. And we had previously moved it. So I say move it back into COVID contingency. Do I have
I'll second
right?
it.
I said that right? Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Steve.
Okay. Although, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thanks. Let's move on. So Marcia, there wasn't any other things in the budget. I looked at it. I didn't see anything that stood out that was of concern. That wasn't what we thought it should be. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Marcia?
There is not.
Okay, so let's move on to our next social services, other items. As you know, every year we make donations to local organizations that support our community. And our criteria has always been, how do they work for the actual people and residents of Brookfield? Where do we get the most services from? And we thought this year, and I know we talked about this in last year's budget process, that instead of just Board of Selectmen making decisions based on a recommendation by the first selectman, that we bring a little more structure around this. So Ellen Melville was nice enough and kind enough to go through. She created a little questionnaire. She went out to all of those organizations who are asking for support from the town, asking them, how many people do you support in town? What kind of services do you offer in town? And she has made a recommendation, which is in the report here. We had $10,600 in our budget for that. And Ellen has made a recommendation to us, and I agree with that recommendation as to whom should get the funds. So I would make a motion that we send the $10,600 to be allocated to the organizations as listed in the report provided by Ellen Melville. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, any discussion?
No, I think it was a great way of doing this. True representation, because there's some people that, you know, were on our list and never responded. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just give the money where it's needed.
Yeah, and I think she did a great job, and I thank her for that. So, Harry, any comments, questions on that?
Nope, no questions. Looks fine. to me.
Okay, so having said that and having a second, did I get a second? I did, right?
I seconded.
Yeah, Sue seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, carries 3-0. Okay, updates of 5G technology. You can see in the package that we wrote a letter to Ajit Pai, the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. The letter was also addressed to Senator Murphy, Senator Blumenthal, and Congresswoman Johanna Hayes, asking FCC to reinstitute their normal procedure for testing new technologies, in this case, particular the 5G technologies. And that letter went out on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, as we had previously agreed. So any questions, concerns, discussion on that?
No, thank you for getting that done though, Steve.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Routine matters, consent agenda. Okay. So I make a motion that the selectmen approve the items on the consent agenda, and that is to start with A, the agreement for professional services by and between the town and TaxServe Capital Services LLC agreement, a grant application for the Still River Watershed Plan for the Public Works Stormwater retrofit, and vision contract for the reappraisal and reevaluation of taxable real estate and exempt property, and the CRF funding for submission of COVID-19 related expenditure reimbursements. On that, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I think the agreement for professional services was, you know, the TaxServe, that was self-explanatory. Have we used them before? Is this just a extension of their
It's
contract?
just an extension of the existing contract.
And
the same
they
thing with-
collect,
Right,
and their fees are paid for by the people that they're collecting the monies from.
right.
Okay.
And Vision is also our preferred provider. There aren't a lot of providers. We're just extending that contract for the reval. And the CRF funding is simply approving the application to CRF. So
Yeah.
there's nothing controversial there.
The NFWF for the Still River Watershed Fund.
Mhm.
So it looks like Brookfield, they're asking from Brookfield for $5,840.
Yeah, but that will come out of our conservation budget. We have the funding for that already,
Okay.
right? It's already been
And
set.
this, so that's for the study.
Right.
The actual project, who pays for the actual project?
That's a good question.
It's not
I don't-
listed here.
It's not listed. I would think the town is going to be put on the hook for at least part of this if there is work that needs to be done. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I think we should do the study. We're getting a fair bit of money to do this. And the more you know about our watershed, the better, I think, especially with the MS4 requirements coming down from the federal government for stormwater management. We have to locate every site. We have to put GIS coordinates for every outfall for stormwater that goes into the watershed. We have that. We have to check them every year. There's a lot of things we have to do. So I think those requirements are only going to get more difficult to manage and follow. And so the more information we have, the better.
Okay. And for anyone who hasn't read this, this is for the area around the Public Works facility.
Yes,
On,
which is right on the Still River.
right.
Probably,
Right.
if thinking
And
back, if we had 60 years ago, we would not have put our Public Works facility right next to a river.
Yeah, we'd never be allowed to now, that's for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
I just didn't know,
Okay.
because sometimes it's, you see this money that's being, allocated and all together. I mean, our responsibility is kind of small because it's, $25,000 altogether. But it's the study. And you don't realize, what the second part of that is going to be.
Yeah, I'm hoping we don't have a lot of work to do
Uh-huh.
after we have the study.
Yeah, the contract for the reappraisal and revaluation. So is this monies that's in our budget right now? Because
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a pretty sizable contract.
Yes. Remember, we put money aside every year
Mhm.
to pay for this. We
Right.
budget for it every year because we do it once every 5 years. And we don't want that one huge hit in the year. So yeah, this is in our budget. It's in there. And it's just something we do every 5 years.
Right, okay.
We have
That's
a
what I thought.
reserve in there, and just to clarify, it's extending with the existing vendor, but we did go out to bid for that to look for other vendors as well.
Yeah, there's not a lot of choices out there.
And it looks like we're going to the cloud and doing all sorts of things with this.
Yep.
So
Yep.
upgrading and
Yep.
making it today's world.
Easier,
Okay.
yes, and more secure too. Okay.
And then I believe the last item, this,
Mhm.
Marcia wants us to approve the funding.
Wants us to approve
That's what we
the,
did in the last, that's the COVID, which we did last time, under your,
Yes,
Okay.
the COVID funding that when I signed off on it on Friday, that I had to certify it. And it says in the certification that it's gone to the legislative body for approval. And so I signed off on Friday, hoping you'll approve it today.
okay, so that's been done. Okay, thank you. I just had those questions on the consent agenda. Thank
great,
you.
oh, good questions. So hearing no more questions or issues, all those in favor of approving those say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next thing, I make a motion that we approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes for October 5th and October 19th. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, do you want to do it all under consent agenda?
I'd like to go through these
Okay.
because there's a couple things we want to talk about. I'd like
Sure.
to do them a little separately.
Yep, that's
Any
fine.
discussions, changes, concerns about the meeting minutes? No?
No.
All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay. We have with the ELC funds from the grant for the Department of Public Health, we hired Maureen Farrell as a temporary COVID-19 disease coordinator for the town of Brookfield. She has a master's in public health. She is running our contact tracing team. And it's proven to require quite a bit more work than we originally thought. So she's going to work for us and we're going to pay for it through that grant. I don't know how long this virus is going to last, but contact tracing is critical and she's really, really good at it. So I just want to make you aware of that. I also want to make you aware of something that happened today. Our director of IT retired today. And Damen Yao is retiring and her last day will be November 20th. So we wish her well.
How long has she been with us?
Over 10 years.
Yeah.
Over 10 years. She's done a good job. But she's at that age. She has some issues with family who are not well. And she just thought it was a good time to retire and we're going to miss her.
We are going to miss her.
I would like to publicly thank her. She is so patient going in to talk about technology and different things, but she was really a pleasure to work with. So I would just
absolutely. And we wish her well, but she'll still be around and be available so to talk to us. And we're going to miss her, but she's done a good job. We haven't decided what we're doing right now. It's just today. So as we move forward with that, we'll discuss that with you.
All right. Well, I wish her the best.
And then we have driveway bonds. I'll just list them. All driveway bond releases are in the amount of $750 for 29 North Pleasant Rise, 9 Signal Hill Road, 58 Tower Road, 33 Knollcrest Drive, 9 Torrey Lane, 28 Oxford Drive. Do I have a second to release those driveway?
I'll second.
bonds? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries 3-0. Okay, so I would make a motion that the selectmen appoint Jim Halpin for a term of 10/5/20 to 7/5/21 on the COVID Long-Term Recovery Committee that's headed up by Mel Buteau. Do I have a second?
I'll second him.
Okay. Any discussion, concerns, issues?
No, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
On the Youth Commission, I recommend that the selectmen appoint Ron Jaffe to the Youth Commission for a term of 11/2/20 to 5/24. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sue seconds. Any questions, concerns, discussion? Nope. All those in favor? Yeah.
Aye. He's taking the position that was formerly held by Robin Montgomery. And
Correct.
so just thanks to Robin for being the chairman of that for the past year and a half, 2 years, I think it's been.
And Robin
thank
did a
you,
great
Robin.
job. He
Yeah, thank you.
started it up. This was a commission that was authorized by our charter, but I don't know how long it's been, 10, 15 years since it was actually in
Yeah.
effect. And
Yeah.
Robin started it up and really got it going. So that's
Yeah.
a really good thing.
Right. Well, Robin took on the chairmanship, but it was Liam and a group of students
that started
that
it.
brought this back. So congrats to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I should have said that. For the Candlewood Lake Authority, with the passing of Jerry Murphy, that unfortunately leaves an opening on the Candlewood Lake Authority. Jerry had been on it for, I don't know, 15 years, Harry?
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah.
A long, long time. There are 2 candidates listed on the agenda. We got a third one, Scott Harmon from 24 Hour Head Road, along with Mike Lee and Richard Skarzensky. You've seen their curriculum vitae, their bio list. All of them are qualified and could be very capable members of the CLA. I know that Will had spoken to me a couple of times about serving on the CLA. He's been our moderator at a lot of our Board of Selectmen meetings. He's a gentleman that shows up to every single Board of Selectmen meeting with his wife, Jean. I think these are all qualified candidates, but Will was the first person to put his hand up, and he is very qualified. So I would make a motion that we appoint Will to the opening on the Candlewood Lake Authority. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Oh, okay.
Now, I just want to say here, we have 3 qualified candidates, so that we would want, if other openings come up, we'd certainly consider and appoint people to boards. So while these other 2 gentlemen would not be appointed now, we certainly hope that they'll apply for and join other committees, because we do need volunteers. Do we have any further discussion on this?
We do balance out, with political party on boards and commissions.
Yes.
Right now, we do have a Democrat and a Republican, and Will coming on as an unaffiliated.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, we usually don't
works.
even consider that until it gets to the legal. You can't have too many, but Will is unaffiliated, so it's good to mention that. So having said that, all those in favor of appointing Will, say aye.
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 Okay, that carries 3-0. Now we have room for public comment. Does anyone wish to make public comment?
Steve, this isn't public comment, but at the right time, I just have a question for you about a different subject.
Sure. We're in the public comment area. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch bases on a recycling center here in Brookfield.
Yeah.
Is that something that we would have set up a committee to, how would we go about, possibly getting our own recycling?
Yeah, as you know, probably know, I've been working on this for about 3 months. The state is the West Cog region, Western Council of Governments, is going to be the pilot region for the glass recycling, where we would get a dumpster that residents could bring their glass to and we'll recycle it. It would be at no cost to the town. But I see, given that huge response we've had from the electronic recycling days and the hazardous waste recycling days, that there is a lot of demand in Brookfield for recycling that's close and convenient. We were using New Milford for recycling, and now we have Winter Brothers, Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge.
Oak Ridge.
But what we see is Bethel had a hazardous waste recycling about a month ago at the one of the churches, and they had one car from Brookfield. The last hazardous waste we had in Brookfield, we had over 500 cars from Brookfield. So staying local seems to be a strong component of having people actually do the recycling. They want it convenient. So we've been we went up to Kent to look at their recycling center last week. And we're looking at a couple of different ones. We've looked at Bridgewater, and we're talking about setting up a recycling center. How do you feel about that?
I think it would be great if we could find a location to have one in Brookfield, where you can do, cardboard bottles, metal. I have been to the one in Ridgefield. They have a dump and a recycling. But I mean, if we could almost kind of model it like New Milford, because Milford was so simplistic. It was, you pull in, they're right there, and you pull out.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. What Kent has is you drive around and you need to, okay. Sorry. Somebody's just giving me a comment. At Kent, what you do is you drive around and all the dumpsters are below ground level, and they have, fencing,
right,
guardrails, and you just throw your stuff over and into the dumpster. Really a very clean, simple organization. And usually most recycling centers, you can pretty much get them to break even, because if you're recycling property, cardboard does have some value. Glass, if it's clean, has value. And what people don't realize with glass is all the glass that you're sending in your single stream, you're putting in your garbage, that's 20% of the weight. And haulers pay by the ton. So 20% of the weight is glass, and none of it is getting recycled because it's contaminated. If we could start those things up, we can actually do real recycling. And you have the hauler, like to do recycling, they'll give us the dumpster for free. And HRRA will subsidize the pickup and the takeoff, taking it away. And it will go to an organization, a new company up in the Hartford area that can actually recycle it and reuse the glass rather than going into the dumpster. So we're going to start to put together some numbers to see what it would cost. I don't think the expenses, the biggest expenses are going to be in setting up the site. It's not in dumpsters. Those are provided for free. And we would have some staffing. We would have to do some staffing. But if we started something and did it Saturdays and Sundays only to start with, right? And hired people to come and do it, I think we do it by permit. There are a lot of different little variables we would have to do. But Harry, you raised the biggest point, is where do we put it?
Yeah.
That would work for everybody.
I don't want to get into too many details here, but it would be nice to be able to have it down by the brush dump.
Yeah, that's right off the top of my head. That seems to be the best place to go.
Right.
Our head of public works doesn't want to put anything in there, but this is what he wants to put in there. But sometimes we all have to compromise.
Yeah.
But it's something I'd like to put on the agenda for next year to see if we could start doing that.
Yeah, I would certainly support that. So.
Sue, what do you think about it?
Absolutely. I'm all for recycling. Yep, absolutely.
So we're going to continue to work on that, try to put together some numbers and some preliminary plans. We do have to get a permit from DEP to do the recycling, but that's a pretty straightforward. It's like $800 for 8 years and you pay $100 a year for it. That's not super expensive. But the biggest expense would be staffing. But remember, we could collect fees either in permits or what a lot of recycling places do it is by unit. If you bring in a refrigerator, it's $35. If you bring in a air conditioner, it's $20, things like that. So once we have a better picture of that, we'll come back to the Board of Selectmen for both review and possible approval. And I think we could probably should put it in next year's budget if we can do it, right? And start like July 1st. And we'll have some startup expenses, but I think people would really like it.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Anybody else have any public comment? Dan, you see anybody raising a hand or?
Nope, nobody else has joined in since early in the meeting.
Okay, so guys, that comes to the adjournment part. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Do I have that?
I'll second it.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And Harry seconded it before you even made it. Okay.
And just
Well, thank you,
reminder to vote tomorrow if you haven't already.
All right, please do vote. What did Al Capone say? Vote early, vote often? No, don't do that.
Do that.
Don't do that. That was a joke. Okay, thanks, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Take
All
care.
right, be safe, everyone.
Okay.